Hello, 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 and welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I am your host. And I am truly delighted today to be joined by one of my sisters from another mister. I told you we had to get Lisa Gibson back on the line. She is our digital diva, and so I have Lisa coming on today just to talk a little bit about some of the contracting opportunities as well as business development opportunities that she and I have been collaborating on recently, and it's all about building wealth. So I had Lisa on before, and we talked about the various best practices and big ideas. So Lisa Gibson, the digital diva, how are you?
Afternoon on this nice hot day in the baked apple.
How are you doing today, Lisa?
I am fantastic. And how have you been? I know you've been uber productive. You got a lot of great stuff going on, and they need to know about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But before we jump in there, I want you to tell our audience a little bit about who you are, Lisa, in your project management role. I mean, you make systems and processes a lot more effective and efficient. And so I just want you to come in and just talk about the services that you render and how important they are to building wealth. It's all about building wealth at the end of the day. Before you do that, though, I just want those that just chimed in to know that we're the marketplace, the Coaxum Report. I'm Terry Coaxum. You can catch us on Roku. You can catch us on Amazon, Android, Apple. You can also download our app at ourtv.network and catch us at any time. So this is the Coaxum Report. I have Lisa Gibson on Renaissance Management Services, and I have to say I am personally grateful to Lisa. We've been working on a few projects together, and she's been really simplifying systems for the Coaxum Connects as well as the Coaxum Connects Wellness Foundation. So, Lisa, why don't you tell our listening audience a little bit about who you are as our project manager extraordinaire and some of the things that you do and why they're necessary. I mean, anybody that's listening that's a small business owner need to understand some of these processes are necessary and how do you streamline them.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be on again. We had a ball the first time, and I know we're going to have just as much fun this time. So,
Absolutely.
with my business, Renaissance Management Services and Studio of Design, the first part of the company, Renaissance Management Services, was actually started about 1995. And
Oh,
what I
wow.
started doing when I moved to New York back then was I offered logistics services to authors and speakers who were touring across the country. We noticed as we were working with motivational speakers like Jewel Diamond Taylor that when they would go on the road, they would have to lug all of their stuff, their paraphernalia, their books, their materials, their tapes, and all of this, along with setting them up at a site, making sure that they had people to handle sales whenever they were speaking or at a location. We noticed that, we saw that there was a need, and we fulfilled it. And once we started with Jewel, other authors and speakers wanted to know about our services, and we found ourselves handling about 6 to 7 authors and speakers, logistics, handling all of their materials. All they had to do was get on that plane, go to the next city, and we would have their stations set up for them and already ready to go. All they had to do was do what they did and be great. We handled the setup and the breakdown, and we got their information and their supplies to the next city for the whole tour. So that's how Renaissance Management Services started. And part of the logistics is operating your business efficiently and effectively. And as you were just
Right.
speaking about, we try to put things in place to make someone's business run smoothly and do it in a no nonsense kind of way. A lot of
That's
things
right.
start with the basics. The basics starts with your email. How
Hmm.
efficient and effectively are you using your email account? Is it cluttered? Do we need to start setting up folders to sort things out? How long does it take you to get through your emails and handle what you need to handle? Your email should not be, you shouldn't dread going into your email box. And for someone like myself who receives hundreds of emails a day, literally, I'd say probably about 75% of them are relevant. The other 25% could be anything from advertisement to just plain old junk. So,
Hmm.
excuse me. Um, show you how to set up your email boxes to run more efficiently for you so you can get through them quickly, respond to them better, and feel more informed and that you're in control of that.
That's right.
After that, we look at what you're doing. How does your email play into your daily operations? Is your operations run by responses from emails, or what other systems are in place that you need a method or process to make
That's
sure
right.
you're capturing data correctly, and that data is being handled in a way that either is secure or in an organized manner that you can get to it quickly. You notice with the systems we put in place with you, one of my favorites that I've used, and I had the privilege of beta testing it years ago before the company set the product out, is Basecamp. Basecamp is
Hmm.
no nonsense, straightforward, easy to use, but it
That's
helps you
right.
manage projects, manage the people that you're working with. You can either have it client facing to where your customer can interact with you on there, or you can just keep it as an internal team tool, as we're doing. But that
Right.
helps
And
you,
I want to pause. I want to pause there for a minute because you were glossing over a lot of great nuggets that you are putting forth. And I always like to pause on nuggets because there's a lot of people that are listening to this show. You know that this show is all over the world. But one of the main things is that I need my small businesses to understand to be ready so they don't have to get ready. And to be ready takes the time on the front end of it so they don't have to worry about going through sifting through emails for hours to get that one email that they needed to have in a folder. And so what Lisa is talking about today is so important in the everyday business, right? So we need to be able to get to our clients quickly. We need to be able to respond to them quickly. We need to make them all feel appreciated and important. And what you'll realize is when you do that, when you give more than what you're paid for, you will always have grateful clients that are still referring you. I think one of the things that I love to say, especially to my students, is that your word of mouth is still boss, right?
yeah,
Someone
yeah,
can make or break you with their word of mouth, right? So they can say, well, Terry's, she's always connecting, and somebody else is going to need a connector, then they're going to call me simply because Lisa said Terry's always connecting. And so I need to be able to turn around whatever they need pretty quickly, efficiently, and effectively. And so I have the pleasure of working with Renaissance Management and Studio Design with doing that. Like Lisa has put together Basecamp for me, and me and she and I have worked countless hours just trying to make sure that everything is in place. But what I can say in this short period of time that I'm able to be more efficient and effective with the systems that are in place. And so that's why I call her the project manager extraordinaire, because she is able to see things in a different way. She's able to compartmentalize things in a different way. I am, I am the one that goes out and shake the tree, so to speak. So I'll go get the book of business and I'll bring in, the clients, and I'll keep them happy, and I'll make sure that we're giving them all the attention that they need. But the back office is going to be someone like Elisa, someone that is able to project manage all of the things we're bringing together, making sure all the balls are kept in the air as opposed to dropping, right? Making sure
right.
that I'm thinking about things like my calendar and not, overbooking it. And there's so many tools. I mean, Lisa lives for this stuff. She's
I
always finding a tool. She's always finding something to make your life more efficient and effective. And so I don't want you just to gloss over the importance of those things, because Lisa makes Lisa's firm makes managing your business a lot easier. And so for those of you that are thinking about getting a project manager or digital diva, think about Lisa and what Lisa's doing and how efficient and effectively she's doing it to keep all of the balls in the air and nothing's dropping. And so just want to, before we get on to the next thing, I want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. So, Lisa, tell me a little bit about some of the barriers that you faced. Getting into your field, doing what you do. I know you started off basically making sure that your clients showed up, whether they
yes,
were prepared to win, right? So you guys would go in and you would set up the tables and you make sure the material was there. You were getting it from one location to another location. All your client had to do was just show up, get on the stage, and do what they do, right? Which is so important. But what made you want to do that type of work? There's a lot of people that want nothing to do with that, right? They don't want the setup, the cleanup,
right.
I don't want no parts of that. and you thrive for things like that. We've done a conference together for World AIDS Day a couple of years ago, and the way that you put the systems in place, everything was just a matter of just me showing up, the guests showing up. Everything that we needed was already printed, and all we did was get up there and we were shining. It was on fire. And so, talk to me a little bit about how you even got into that space of wanting to do this. And let me tell y'all, she's
Oh,
anal to the 10th power. Let's just talk about
yes. Type A to the 10th power. Um,
that.
it's kind of in my DNA, having a tech background helps. And I've done a lot of project work, project management work for a lot of major industry heavy hitters. Everyone from Hewlett Packard, NASA, Mount Sinai, NYU, one of my favorites, between HP and NYU. I got to work on the emergency communications transformation program here at the city that changed how our whole 911 system works here. Proud to
Mhm.
be a project manager on that. And with it, it's just paying attention to detail. That's kind of been
Mhm.
one of those little blessings and curses that I've had most of my life. I see the things that other people don't see, and trust me, you didn't want to be beside me watching a TV show. And I noticed that cup was on that table, 5 minutes ago. It's not in the same place. So that person walked in the hallway twice. I just saw that little things like that would work my friends. But that actually was a skill set that I didn't realize would come to really help me have my joy, not just a job. And so
Yeah,
with it all, that attention to detail pays off and made sure that I would be doing something that I not only loved to do, but I help people better enjoy what they love to do also.
that's right.
So
That's right.
um, the barriers. I think the biggest barrier that I encountered when I first started doing project management formally was making sure that I understood how to adapt or understand the culture I was going into. It wasn't about me
Mm,
necessarily putting what how I would do it onto someone else and say, this is how you need to do it because I do it this way. I needed to look
right.
at what they had in place, how they operated, what they were most comfortable with, and how they adapted to change.
That's
And
right.
see how we could just kind of merge at an intersection here that would give them the results that they wanted, but also make them more efficient and effective at what they were doing. So it's
Wow.
not necessarily my way or the highway, is that both of us are going to be riding in this car, but I'm going to show you how to drive your new Lamborghini, okay, and get the most, okay. But
And
with
that
it,
that is so appropriate. That's so appropriate because I'm not the, and I say this all the time, I'm not the administrative manager. Don't send me an administrative stuff. However, I will speak to an audience, a huge audience of 4,000 plus. I will make sure that everybody in the room walk away feeling like they had a great journey and a great experience. Those are the things that I master. I don't necessarily master organizing my emails or making
right,
sure that the projects are in place, that I can just click one button and go through the entire history of what's going on with a particular thing. When I met Lisa on this journey the second time around, I actually still had folders, like physical file folders. And not only did I have physical file folders, I had binders with little folders in the binders. She was like, "Yeah, no, we gotta get rid of that.
no,
Renaissance
no,
management is gonna help you help yourself better." So it's really
yes.
interesting because I didn't even realize the importance of that until now. I'm, traveling. I travel abroad. I do things across the world, and when I do, I don't necessarily, it's not a time to bring a big huge folder. And if I have more than one client that I'm working on, it just isn't an efficient and effective way to use my
It's
time, my
not
energy,
practical,
or my
not
strength,
practical
right?
at all.
So she showed me through her company there's ways to capture all of the data I need, put them into the folders I need, and if I want them in color, they could even be in color. Like, it doesn't have to be drab and dry, similar to what used to happen back when we had I'm dating myself a little bit, even though I'm still 25. We had card catalogs in our library, right? And so, she really brought us up to date with her systems in place. And so, I just want to thank you for that. And I don't want to gloss over that because, I mean, for me, I still like to read my physical newspaper, right? I don't want to read online. I had to, I want to get my newspaper and like click through it in my magazines and stuff. And so, it took me a little way to kind of get to where Lisa was trying to take me
Right.
to. But when I tell you it works, it's just a matter of me having, high speed internet and going on and being anywhere in the world and being able to access every single client every single time and respond to whatever their needs are. So I just want to thank you for that as well. So I want you talked about the barriers. What about, and this is a lot we've been working on a lot recently, a lot of best practices. You've come up with a lot of different systems, and like you said, this is something that I need you, my listening audience, to pay attention to. Make sure the person that you are hiring, the firm that you're hiring, really have your needs in mind. It's not okay just to say, "Oh, I like it better this way." Lisa's firm is not that type of firm. She literally comes in, she looks, she takes an assessment of everything that you're doing, and then she makes recommendations based on how you respond to things, right? Some of us may like to start from Z to A, and some of us want to start from A to Z, whatever it is, and however it's showing up in our lives. She makes those systems with you in mind. And so I'm asking all of those that are going to be managing a lot of projects. I need you to have something, to have a Lisa on board, to have a team on board that can help you do this, because my goal is I want you to scale. I want whatever model
Yes.
that you're using to make sure that it's scalable. Make sure you're able to take what you're doing to the next level. And whether you're here or not, you could be vacationing in Bali. Someone on your team can still go into the system and see all the things that's going on. When it's here and not somewhere that is accessible to everyone else, you're not going to be as efficient and effective. So talk about that. I want to talk about some of those best practices, Lisa, that you put into place to make sure that we're able to access all of the systems, simultaneously, no matter where we are and what we're doing.
Well, you just spoke on it really well. One of the best practices is make sure technology is your friend. And I know a lot of people are intimidated by technology, but the first thing I'm going to tell you is that the cloud is your friend. And some people are like, I don't deal with the cloud. That's too much. If you've got a Gmail account or any type of email based or web based email account, you are dealing with the
We're
cloud.
in a
You
cloud.
have for the longest. Okay. If all you have to do is go to any computer and log into your email account, Yahoo, Gmail, if you still have Hotmail, God help you.
What about
You can,
AOL? Don't talk about
well,
don't leave my old AOL account out.
that is all cloud based technology. And I say Gmail for the best example, or a Google account, because everything you actually need to kind of operate your business at the most basic level is included in your Google account. When you set
Hmm.
up your Gmail email, you get so many other things with it that you could practically run your business in the cloud from anywhere, that beach in Bali or the phone booth down in Times Square. It doesn't matter. You can be
You
there
see how
with a hot
excited she gets? Like her whole face lights up when she's talking
towel.
about this
It's my drug of choice. I keep telling you,
stuff.
technology runs in my veins. But yes, so the cloud is your friend, technology is your friend. Start off with good equipment, and make sure that when you buy that equipment, you're not using it for everything and anything. I personally don't play games on my computers. I don't. My machine makes me money. So I don't have mahjong, I don't have solitaire, none of that stuff. I keep it for what it is. Its job is to make money. So with it, making sure that high speed internet is up to par, making sure you always have redundancy, and the cloud will help you with that too. A lot of people make the big mistake of saving things on their hard drive that needs to go in your cloud drive, because if your machine gets water spilled on it or you drop it, you sometimes you can lose everything. It can't be
Yeah.
restored and you've lost it. But when you save it on that Google Drive, you can catch it anywhere. We've got our
Ah,
special guest
thank you, thank
here.
you, thank you, thank you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I see Dr. Susan has joined us. Dr. Susan, I have you know, your girl, your family, my sister from another mister, talking to us about various best practices and some big ideas. I've had the pleasure of having Lisa help streamline some of my systems. And so just wanted to, just share that with all of those that are listening to us. Dr. Susan, welcome to the Coaxum Report.
Thank you. I truly appreciate you both. It's good to see you. Hello, family. It's wonderful to be here.
It's a
Yes,
pleasure
yes,
to
good
have
seeing
you
you.
here. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's just gonna be like talking to family. So,
Okay.
Dr. Susan, I'm gonna let you jump right in. Lisa, anything you want to share? Any last thoughts you want to share? I want you to stay on so you can talk to your family. If
Again,
you have time, if you have to jump, I understand. But Dr.
no,
Susan, Dr.
I'm
Susan, I
gonna go
want
ahead
you to
and say bye. I'm gonna say
all
bye because
right.
I know what cousin here has to say is going to be so important, and I'm so glad you're able to make it. Thank you so much. I know you had some things come up here, but we're so happy to have you on.
God bless
Absolutely.
you.
We definitely are. We definitely are. All right, Lisa. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Be blessed. Dr. Susan, again, I want to welcome you to the Coaxum Report. So the Coaxum Report is all around the world. So don't be surprised if someone calls you from Jamaica and say, I see you on my TV.
Oh, good.
So you can catch this on Roku. You can catch the show on WSTX Bloomberg. We're also on the radio simultaneously. So your folks are watching us, but also listening to us on the radio. You can also catch us on Android, on Apple. You can download the app. So, whatever you don't get to share today, your friends will be able to share later on. They'll be able to pull it up and see it later on. So I want to welcome you to the Coaxum Report. And I want you to tell us a little bit about who Dr. Susan is and, just some of the things that you want to share about your barriers, some best practices, and of course, some big ideas. Women in ministry are truly changing the game because, as I know personally, I have a lot of friends. I had the pleasure of spending a weekend in Sag Harbor this weekend with Reverend Dr. Susan Johnson Cook, and everything is a moment for us to reflect. And I remember being beachside, and she said we had Beachside Baptist Church, and we took a moment to pray. We took a moment to really uplift and encourage each other, and it's really important as women because we do that every day for other people. So it's a pleasure to have you on today so we can celebrate what you're already doing. And more importantly, we can highlight it and encourage others that are walking the walk in ministry because it's not an easy walk. Not an easy walk at all. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate you. The life of a pastor's life happens, right? But praise be unto God. I'm here looking like Mickey Mouse and all this other kind of stuff today. But God is good.
All the
Um,
time.
so I'm Reverend Susan Buxton. I serve as the pastor of Allen Temple African Methodist Episcopal Church in the city of Atlanta. I am in my 5th year here, the first female to serve in the 157 years. And it's absolutely a blessing. One of our bishops used to say all the time, the work is all divine. And so the divine work means that it's divine on the mountaintop and it's divine in the valley. It is just all divine because the Lord is always in it. And so I also, my side gig, I'll say it like that. I'm also the regional coordinator for the Oikos Institute for Social Impact.
Nice.
And so we work with a cohort here in Atlanta of 9 churches who to help them reimagine and repurpose and rethink specifically real estate as it relates to their campus. We've seen a huge trajectory shift in churches after COVID, with particularly related to their real estate. Folks aren't just going in on a Sunday, and the church and really before that, many of our churches, the physical plant physical plants themselves were not really being utilized to their max. And so, now we think, what do we do with these huge fellowship halls? What do we do with the property that grandmama and them bought, but nothing has ever been developed on it? And so
let's hold that thought for a minute, because we got to take a quick break, but we're going to get deep into that because, I really want to talk about the real estate and the fact that we must hold on to this and repurpose it in a way that it continues to stay in our church family, because there's a lot of churches that we're not able to do that. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about your ministry, because that's a whole ministry in itself, talking about real estate and property. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Absolutely.
ATL runs on V Plus Energy. We love our home and our people. We at V Plus made it our mission to provide healthy energy to our city, so that's what we did, and you all love it. 5 fruits, 5 vegetables, 5 vitamins, it's healthy, tasty energy. But don't just take my word. Listen for yourself.
Man, I tried a lot of energy drinks. Tastes good, that's one of the biggest things. Refreshing, and it's not too strong, so I like it, man.
People, it's Alexander Aperture, the commercial king, and check this out, man. We're here with V Plus Energy. Look, you try to get your energy up. You out here at a competition like this, man, field day. You're gonna need something, get a little extra kick. Make sure you get that V Plus Energy.
Hey, what's up? It's Lady Johnson Russian, and we are checking in with the V Plus Energy drink. This drink is amazing. I love that it don't give you the jitters, the energy you need. If you haven't tried it, please check it out. The drink is very good. I like the peach flavor. And so far, I'm trying to see if the energy kicks in.
I guess that energy kicked in. Now it's time to get you some. Visit drinkvplus.com.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Coaxum Report. Thank you, Dr. Susan, Reverend Susan. So when we took a pause, for those of you that had not heard, so Dr. Susan Hillary Buxton serves as the pastor of Allen Temple African Methodist Episcopal Church in Atlanta. And of course, you know, we got an Allen AME here too in New York City.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I was like, oh, okay, we family there. We family. So definitely welcome. And so before I jump right in, I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that Dr. Susan is also a pastor, author, educator, and an advocate. 29 years in the school system. That's a lot of time spent
Absolutely.
molding them young, impressionable minds. And my hat's off to you. I'm also an educator. I teach at Medgar Evers College, and I've had the pleasure of teaching at, of course, at John Jay College and at Bryan and Stratton. Someone else wanted to join the TV show today.
All family, right?
No, all family. So I want you to talk a little bit more. We started talking about churches and repurposing, especially after COVID. So talk to me a little bit more about what you guys were able to do with that.
Yeah. Well, one of, again, I do serve as a regional coordinator for Southeast region for the Oikos Institute for Social Impact. And we have several cohorts around the country, most on the Eastern Seaboard. And our opportunity is to really help churches to just really begin to rethink what they're doing with their property. We are in a different age now where it's not just people coming and giving. Our foreparents really, Sunday, that's where they gave. We have other opportunities and alternative streams of income that we must tap into. And the Black church is one of the largest landowners in the country. When we think of the Black church, now we may be segmented as it relates to denomination, because non-denominational really is a denomination at this point, right? So we may be segmented, but we absolutely are wealthy landowners collectively. And so the opportunities that we have are tremendous. Many cities are really looking into, foundations are looking into how can they work with faith-based institutions who are really the anchor institutions in our communities to help to build families, to help to educate, to help to develop, to build the economic infrastructure of communities. And so it is really a great opportunity for churches to not just reimagine, but to go back to being that institution that really helped develop communities, because that's what we know and that's really who we are. And so our opportunity is to say, what's in your hand, right? Just as God said to Moses, what's in your hand? What do you have available to you? What do you have available to you already? Many of us are sitting in cities and rural areas that other folks are developing.
That's right.
Right. And you said something before we left about what we need to hold on to. Right. So it's not, God is not making any more land that we know of. Right. And our real estate is our power, and so we shouldn't be looking to mess up.
It's our legacy, it's our power, and other folks have grabbed onto that a lot earlier than we did, and not just churches though. And this is really interesting, Dr. Susan, that you're having this conversation right now, because I was just talking to a daycare provider. She was my daughter's executive director of her daycare, and I don't know if you remember, but there was a time when all my daycares in my neighborhood looked like me. So they still look like me, but we don't own any of them.
Correct.
They didn't buy the property. And I think that that's unfortunate because we missed a huge opportunity to really invest in our communities through our daycare centers and through our churches. The church has always been the foundation and the building block, not just the church, faith-based institutions have always been the foundation. I'm born and raised in Walterboro, South Carolina. I remember being voluntold every Sunday that I had to go to church. In my house, it was Saturday. There was no choice. Nobody was given a choice. You were get dressed, let's go. That was a choice, right? But I remember how much I got from that experience, and still am able to use those things to this day. I was talking to my daughter today about the Serenity Prayer. I said, "Go to Psalms 91." She looking at me because that's our foundation, and so we have
Yeah.
to hold on to our community through our real estate, through our property. We can't let that stuff go. And one thing that you said when we were getting ready to take our quick commercial break, you talked about the impact in our communities post COVID. A
Yeah.
lot of people are not coming back to church the way that they did. They are not paying their tithes the way that they once did. But we have to find a way, like you say, to repurpose. I was like, hold on now. I need that. I need that repurposing, and I need it across the country. Because
Mm-hmm.
we have to figure out ways to repurpose, because a church should not have a mortgage. Let me just put that there. I'm going to just put that right down right there and leave it right there. We should not have mortgages on our churches, because that's a way for spectators to come in and take our property. In fact, I know of a situation, I'm not going to call names to protect the guilty, but I know of a situation where there was a church and the church had a mortgage and they fell behind in the mortgage, and a spectator was able to come in and purchase the mortgage from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And when the church went back to get their mortgage, the spectator would not allow them to get their church back.
Yeah.
And
Well, depending on the city, you can depending on the city, right? Depending on the city or state, you can do that if you go and pay the utility bill.
What?
Absolutely. There are places where if you go pay the utility bill, then you own the property. So that's a
What?
reality. That's a reality, right?
Wow.
And so and I agree with you. We ought to we do build, we got it. A lot of times we do not go into and people who don't look like us and have maximized the use of real estate, they don't always walk in scot-free to property and development as well, right? They get mortgages, they get loans, they do those pieces. But what our goal has
They
to be
also
is
collaborate, though, which is
right,
we don't talk about it a lot, but they
right.
collaborate. I had
Oh,
a
absolutely.
situation where I asked one of my mentors is Hasidic Jew, and I asked him a question. I said, "How are you guys just walking in purchasing brownstones?" He said, "We don't always have the money." He said, "We collaborate. We come together. So
That's
if
right.
it's four of us, we pool our resources together. We get that first brownstone. We change the CFO, which is the certificate of occupancy, make them 4 condos,
Mm-hmm.
and then we flip it. And everybody get one, and that's how we make our money. That one floor is $1.5 million, and we only paid $1.5 million for the entire building, but we put our money together. And so that's why we use like repurpose. I said, hold on now. We in the house.
Yeah. And part of it as well is to just make sure that we also realize that there are so many people who are no longer utilizing downtown buildings. They don't want to have to pay the overhead, right? And so if I have in our current physical property, we have an educational wing, we have a what we would consider a fellowship hall, which is our old church. We have and so it's used for rental space, right? It's a full stage, it's all of that, right? So there are businesses who do not want to go and have to pay that overhead. Well, one of the churches in our cohort in Memphis, they are renovating their hall in that manner and their educational wing so that they are now incubating businesses in their community. And so there's social service organizations, right? Social service organizations, for-profit businesses who don't want to have to don't want to have to go into these big buildings downtown, right? So we can maximize on the fact that people are not going back, but they also do not want to stay in their home all day and every day and work from their home as well, right? So they do want to have that kind of opportunity. And the people who were here, everybody at our church, I won't say everybody, but a large number of people who are 60 and over here at my church, they actually went to school here. This was their in our educational bill, this was their early childhood space, right?
Wow.
And so our responsibility is to do what? Give back. To make sure that we are now, since we have gotten away from that, to repurpose our building so it can also serve as that kind of entity. So the people who own it look like us, right? The people who are educating look like us. And so that we're getting an education in what it means to be authentically and unapologetically African, as a part of our educational development.
Awesome. I mean, this is wonderful news, and I'm glad, so this show is programmed throughout the world, and I hope that someone is able to take these nuggets with them, because this is really, really important. We're losing a lot of property, and again, we don't get that back. I had to have a conversation with my relatives. When my grandmother passed away and the land was passed down, they're like, "Oh, we just gonna." I'm like, "You don't get that back. You don't get that back." So I'm gonna go ahead and pay these taxes right here. I'm just put that there right down on there, and this is what we're gonna do, because once you get rid of it, that's it. There is no other way. And so I'm glad that you guys are doing this. I'm happy that it's the church institution is doing it, because our churches and our communities are well-respected institutions. Like you said, the folks that are in your church or have been there, they are vested there. So they understand the importance of having you there all the time, right? And so, I just want to see a lot more of that. I want to see us come together. I'm glad that you guys are doing it as a collective, right? You got how many? 7 churches, right? In the cohort?
Right. In our cohort is 9 churches in our particular cohort. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have other cohorts throughout the East. So we have a cohort in North Carolina that's geared towards female-led ministries.
Nice.
We have a cohort in the Dallas area. We have a cohort in DC that serves that Delmarva area. We're starting a cohort in Chicago. So there's several cohorts, and we work with those churches in those particular areas through education, because the truth is many churches do not get involved in real estate endeavors, because that's not what the church has typically done. Mm-hmm. And when they have been duped by people who understand the real estate market in a way that many people in churches have not really engaged. That's and right. So our responsibility is to make sure that we are helping churches to really understand the language that we and that we get funders to understand the language of faith-based institutions. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of funders giving is not down. People don't give to faith-based institutions. Right. Because faith-based institutions are not really used to doing business in a way that would allow them to get those loans and to collaborate in the ways that you discussed earlier, because that's just not what we have done collectively historically.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's why we've missed out on a lot of great opportunities, but it's time for us to really understand it, to study it, to pass it on, to share it. Don't keep it to ourselves. Make sure that, whoever's in your cohort is sharing it with other cohorts, so that we can spread the word and spread the wealth. I mean, other faiths, I just was at my baby's school, and the Roman Catholic Church own the building. They own the church, it's in the front, and then they have the school wing that's on the side. And so what they've decided to do is to rent out that space. And so they're renting that space to the charter school now, and they're getting, a pretty significant penny for that space, because that was just sitting there dormant, because not as many people are going to Catholic schools as they did before, right? But they repurposed that space, and they own tons of space. That community owns tons of space. And I'm like, okay, so how do we somebody taught them real estate. They knew the importance of holding on to their churches and making sure that they were restoring them. And I mean, beautiful space, beautiful space. But they understood the importance of doing it. And that's what I want to see us do more of. I know almost all of the AME churches that I'm familiar with are beautiful spaces. So I can only imagine your space is just as beautiful. Here, the Allen AME I talked about, Floyd Flake understood real estate. Johnny Youngblood understood real estate.
Very well. Very well.
So those are some pastors that understood it and really utilized their platform and their resources and their networks to make sure we understood the importance of real estate and why we should not just be renters, but owners. And so that's really important for us. And so I'm super excited about this project you're doing. You definitely gonna have to come back, and so you can tell us a little bit more about it and how we can get involved, not just, just listening to you, but sharing this message with other individuals. I know one of the other concerns that's always had is older members, they don't like too much change, right? And so it's that can be a bit of a barrier, but if we explain it the way that we need to, because remember, we're standing on their shoulders, we explain it the way they need to, they'll not only be on board, they'll be the biggest cheerleaders, and they'll bring the other folk along the way. And so it's really important for us to explain this in our community the way that you just explained it to us, so that we can continue to build wealth in our communities, because we have our faith-based institutions, and they have been pillars in our communities for many, many years. So I'm super excited about that. We talked about some barriers. We really didn't get to dig deep as we want to, and as we usually do on this show, but I'm calling you back. When you have some time to come back, I want you to come back, and I want you to share a little bit more about what you're doing in these spaces, because it's all about building wealth. My show, the Coaxum Report, is just that. I want my small businesses not just to be small. I want them to grow, and I want them to grow in wealth and in health. And so it's really important to talk about how to do that, and how to do that well, and leave legacy. What the Bible says, 3 generations down, I want them to have the generational wealth that can pass down 3 generations plus, right? I want them to break the chains of poverty and understand that he came so we can have life and have it more abundantly, not for us to continue to struggle and not to have. And so it's important for us to share that. And so, it's only 3 more minutes to the end of the show, but I want you to leave us with any last thoughts. Is there anything special, that projects that you're working on and you need our support, encouragement? Let us know, because we're here.
Yes, well, I do encourage you, visit us anytime, Allen Temple Atlanta, on Facebook and other social media outlets. But the Oikos Institute is hosting a national conference in Chicago. It's coming up very soon, September 20th through the 22nd. It's in Chicago. And so I hope that you all will go to www.oikosinstitute.org. From there, you will be able to see the information. We have some wonderful speakers who are coming. One of our keynotes is Sean Jenwright, for those of you who have read The 4 Pivots. And so we have a wealth of people. One of our honorees is Dr. Jeremiah Wright. We have Kirk Whalum as well, who's coming to be with us. And there's so many other people. Dr. Tracy Blackman is also a keynote. So we have several people who are coming. Again, it's in Chicago. Go to www.oikosinstitute.org. Say it again.
The month, what date is it?
It is September. It is this month. Okay, it is this month, September 20th through the 22nd. Registration is still open, even if you just want to come to the gala, if you're in the area, or you just, had some of those miles and you want to shoot on out to Chicago for a minute. We'd be glad to see you. Please let me know that that you found out about it on the Coaxum Report, and we might be able to do something for you. Amen. But God is good. But yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Life happens as a pastor, and so thank you for the accommodation, for being able, and I'd love to be able to come back and share again.
Absolutely. I just want to say to you, I just commend you for what you're doing, and ask God to just continue to bless you and give you favor, because what you're doing is going to impact multi-generations. It's multi-generations, not just the people that are at your church or in your community. It's really going to spread far and near. And so I thank you.
And can I say this one more thing?
Yes.
Remember, as churches, if the worship inside is not making an impact outside, then we just making noise.
That's it.
Remember that.
Absolutely.
God
and we're going to end on that note. Thank you so much. Take care and be blessed. Bye.